Hello students, in this video lecture we will discuss some of the important differences. Student, in this lecture we will discuss one of the most important difference between that's autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition from our first life process, that's a nutrition. Then after that we will discuss about one more important difference between aerobic respirations and anaerobic respirations from another life process, that's a respiration. And we'll discuss one more important difference between transpirations and translocation. That's a difference from another life process, transportation. Student, autotrophic nutritions and heterotrophic nutritions. Autotroph. Autotroph are those organisms which prepare their food by themselves. So we all are very familiar with the photosynthesis process carried out by plants and all the green plants. Food is synthesized from inorganic substances. So inorganic substances are carbon dioxide and water, students. That means for the photosynthesis purpose, the green plants use the inorganic substance, that's carbon dioxide, water, to make the food. But heterotrophic nutrition is a type of nutrition where the organism depends on other organisms to obtain the foods. They are called autotroph, like animals and all the living beings other than green plants. So here are the examples: green plants and some bacteria. So all the green plants and some of the bacteria like blue-green algae, these are the organisms. They have a special components in them, that's a chlorophyll. Because of that component they are able to prepare their own food. But all the animals and fungus, they lack chlorophyll, the green pigment, which is responsible, which helps plants to prepare the food. So those components are missing, those components are absent in all these animals, so they cannot make their own foods. So they depend on other for their need of a food. So they are heterotrophs. So that's one simple point of difference between autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition from our first life process, that's a nutrition. Now student, let's move on to another type of difference, that is aerobic and anaerobic respirations from another life process, that's a respiration. Student, aerobic respiration occurs in presence of oxygen and anaerobic respiration occurs in absence of oxygen. For the respiration purpose, we need oxygen. But there are certain organisms, they can respire even in absence of oxygen. So those organisms which respire in presence of oxygen, they are called aerobic, or they are said to perform aerobic respirations. And the organisms which do not need oxygen for the respiration, they are said to perform anaerobic respirations. Now student, in this aerobic respiration, what happens? The food is oxidized, the food is broken down completely. And in case of anaerobic respiration, the food is broken down incompletely. Incomplete oxidation of a food, that is, food is broken down incompletely. Now student, this process, aerobic respiration, occurs in cytoplasm as well as in mitochondria. A part of this respiration occurs in cytoplasm, aerobic respiration occurs in cytoplasm, and the remaining occurs in mitochondria. But this entire anaerobic respiration takes place in cytoplasm of a cell. Student, next point of difference is end product. What is the end product of aerobic respirations? At the end of this aerobic respiration, the product obtained is carbon dioxide and water. But in case of aerobic respiration, end product obtained are ethyl alcohol, lactic acid, and carbon dioxide. Student, in this aerobic respirations, a lot of energy is released. So 38 molecules of ATP is released. Adenosine triphosphate. That's how the energy is stored. So in this aerobic respirations, huge amount of energy is released. That's 38 molecules of ATP is released. But in case of anaerobic respiration, the amount of energy released is very, very less. It's only 2 ATP molecules. So student, that's another point of difference between aerobic respirations and aerobic respirations from one more important, that's life process, that's a life respirations. Now let's move on to another type of difference, that is transpirations and translocation. Difference between transpirations and translocations from another life process, that's a transportation. Student, transpiration. Both this transpiration and translocation occurs in plants. Transpiration, it's the evaporation of water from the leaves, or we can say It's the elimination of the excess water by the plant from the leaf. So that's what the transpiration process. Translocation, in this process, the plant transports the synthesized food from the leaf to different part of a plant body. So it's a translocation is, in simple we can say translocation is the transportation of a food from the leaf to different part of a body, and transpiration is the elimination of the excess water, or we can say unused water by the plants. That's the transpiration. Now student, for this transpiration purpose, the xylem tissues are involved. Xylem tissues. Xylem and phloem are the conducting tissues in plants. So they helps in conduction. They helps in conduction of the uh, materials required for the photosynthesis or the water and minerals. So the xylem tissues are involved in transpiration, and phloem tissues are involved in translocations. Student, for this transpiration process, the plant do not requires any energy. They don't use any kind of energy. But in case of a transportation, energy is required. Energy is used in the form of a ATP for the transportation. Student, this transpiration process is unidirectional. Unidirectional means the movement of the water and the minerals occurs only in one direction, that is from the roots towards the top side of the plant. But here in case of a translocation, it occurs bidirectional. That means both the direction or every part of the plant, the food is transported upward and downward, both side, or we can say towards the shoot and towards the root. So transportation of a food occurs towards the shoot of the plant, towards the top, and towards the bottom. That's the root side. So that's the difference between autotrophic nutrition, heterotrophic nutrition from the life process nutrition, aerobic respirations and aerobic respirations from respiration, and transpirations and translocations from transportations. So student, I hope you understood the most important difference between autotroph, heterotroph, aerobic, anaerobic, and transpirations and translocations. So with that, we end today's this lecture. Thank you.